So the WrestleMania 42 main event has officially been announced, and it's going to be Roman Reigns versus CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship. And I'm going to say this right here and right now. The segment that we saw this past Monday on Raw was easily one of Roman Reigns' best segments. What's even funnier is the fact that every single member of the Shield absolutely hates CM Punk. CM Punk derangement syndrome is a real thing. Bad Bunny, who has been the talk of the town, is rumored to return to WWE, and honestly, I'm down for it. Bad Bunny is easily one of the best celebrities to ever enter the squared circle.
The recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
Get stealing, woo, wheeling, dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun. Yeah! Kurt Angle, yeah! Why, Triple H, you son of a tell me why! And Tony Khan, this is also on you!
I am going to ruin wrestling.
Just get over it!
It is Super Bowl Sunday on this Sunday, February 8th, 2026. This is also the WrestleHavoc Podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this edition of the show. Of course, we got the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks duking it out for glory on this Super Bowl Sunday. We also got the Super Bowl halftime show with Bad Bunny, who sparked a lot of controversy, but Bad Bunny, who is the talk of the town, and I'm really excited to see what's going to be happening in terms of Bad Bunny and his performance tonight at the Super Bowl. But yeah, this is the WrestleHavoc Podcast. It is Sunday, February 8th, 2026. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this edition of the show. We got a lot of things to talk about on this edition of the podcast. Of course, we are obviously going to be talking about the WrestleMania main event. The WrestleMania main event is officially set, and it's going to be CM Punk versus Roman Reigns for the World Heavyweight title in the main event of Night 2 of WrestleMania 42. Roman Reigns did not choose Drew McIntyre, and let's be honest, if he had chosen Drew McIntyre, it kind of wouldn't have made sense to begin with. But there was a lot of shots taken towards Drew McIntyre at the segment that they had, or the segment that Punk and Roman had this past Monday night on Raw. But the main event is set, Roman Reigns versus CM Punk for the world title. We're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about Bad Bunny. As I talked about at the top of the show, Bad Bunny is rumored to return to WWE. Obviously, you know, it's no surprise that WWE is thinking about possibly bringing Bad Bunny back, considering he is the talk of the town, not only because of the Super Bowl, but of course, couple of weeks ago at the Grammys. So honestly, if there's a time to bring back Bad Bunny, I mean, now is definitely the time to do it, and I'm definitely in favor of WWE bringing back Bad Bunny. So we're going to be talking about that as well. Grand Slam Australia, we're going to be running down the card because yes, AEW has a show next weekend, and that is going to be Grand Slam Australia. It's not a pay-per-view. It's a special event. It's so weird how they have these special events, but it's not a pay-per-view. It's Grand Slam Australia. It's basically a pay-per-view level episode of Collision. That's what it is. But we're going to be talking about Grand Slam Australia. Plus, we're going to be talking about the Dynamite ratings. Now, I normally don't talk about ratings on this show, but the reason why I'm going to be talking about the ratings on this show is because of the fact that the ratings have gone through a huge change. Apparently, Nielsen has updated their system again. Originally, a couple months ago, Nielsen actually updated their system, and it affected wrestling in a very negative way. All shows, SmackDown, Dynamite, Collision, were all affected in a bad way. Now, with TNA being a part of that mix, they were all affected in a bad way, but wrestling has taken a bump in a positive way with this new Nielsen system, so I'm going to be talking about that as well on this edition of the podcast. Plus, we're going to be talking about AJ Styles. AJ Styles is in the news, and everybody's wondering where AJ Styles is going to be ending up. Is he going to stay retired, or is he going to go somewhere else? Is AJ Styles going to have retirement tour of his own. We're going to have to wait and see. But he did appear on Stephanie McMahon's podcast, and we are going to be talking about that as well. All right, here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this edition of the show. Of course, it is Sunday, February 8th, 2026. Before we get into all this craziness, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Podcast channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, if you guys are watching on WNN platforms, I thank you guys so much for watching me on those platforms as well. But without any further ado, let's get straight into talking about all of the wrestling. Of course, everybody's watching the Super Bowl. Some people are watching it for the game, that being dedicated football fans. Me personally, I could care less. I primarily just care about the Bad Bunny halftime show and the possible trailers that we're going to be seeing at the Super Bowl. Now, apparently, I was very much looking forward to getting an Avengers Doomsday trailer, but for whatever reason, Disney/Marvel is not going to be dropping any sort of Super Bowl teaser for Avengers Doomsday, or Sony's not even going to be dropping anything for Spider-Man Brand New Day, which is absolutely insane. Now, keep in mind, Avengers Doomsday comes out in December, so it's probably expected. But in terms of Spider-Man Brand New Day, I believe that comes out in July, so I don't know what Sony is thinking. If there's any time to capitalize on the Spider-Man craze, Sony, please drop that Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer at the Super Bowl. Please, I beg of you guys, because that's one of the movies that I'm very much looking forward to in 2026, Spider-Man Brand New Day. But I digress. Let's move on and talk about the wrestling. All right, let's talk about Roman Reigns and CM Punk. Of course, Roman Reigns won the 2026 Royal Rumble last week in Saudi Arabia, and it got a lot of mixed reactions amongst a lot of people. Some people were upset about it. Some people liked the idea. Some people are in the middle. Me personally, I do not mind. I think Roman Reigns winning is honestly the best decision. I mean, it really could have gone either way, but let's be honest with ourselves. The Royal Rumble was not as exciting this year as it was last year, and a lot of people were upset at the outcome of last year. Of course, Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble, and I was one of the people that actually defended the idea of Jey Uso winning the Rumble. But looking at the track record of WWE's booking, and primarily WWE's booking of Jey Uso, I kind of sound stupid nowadays if you go back and listen to my defense of Jey Uso. I'm still a fan of Jey Uso. I'm just saying a lot of people are not really, too keen on Jey Uso nowadays for whatever reason. Jey Uso is still one of the most over acts on WWE television, but whatever. But in terms of Roman Reigns winning the Rumble, a lot of people, they have mixed reactions regarding Roman Reigns winning. Number one, people need to understand that we're going into WrestleMania this year without a big narrative going into the show. Unlike the last couple of years, primarily 2 years ago. 2 years ago was easily the most interested that not only myself, but a lot of other fans were in terms of the build of WrestleMania. Even last year, even though the build was kind of crap, there was at least some sort of ongoing narrative in terms of John Cena's last WrestleMania. This year, we don't really have anything. There's really no excitement coming in to WrestleMania 42, and there was really no real excitement coming in to the Royal Rumble. But Roman Reigns won the 2026 Royal Rumble, and we found out who he was going to face at WrestleMania. Roman Reigns actually wasted no time in telling us who he is going to go after at WrestleMania, and it was a fantastic segment that him and CM Punk had last night. But spoiler alert, Roman Reigns is going to go after CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania this year. That is going to be your main event in Las Vegas for WrestleMania 42, night 2, the second night of WrestleMania, that being WrestleMania Sunday. It's going to be Roman Reigns versus CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship. Again, overall thoughts on the match being made, the match itself. It's a very intriguing match. It was one of the matches that I was really just fantasy booking in my head. One of those matches that I just really wanted to see ever since CM Punk returned to the company back in late 2023. I mean, once CM Punk came back to the company, there was just a whole slew of possibilities, and Roman Reigns versus CM Punk was definitely, one of those possibilities. And yes, we did get a tease of Roman Reigns versus CM Punk last year in the triple threat match with him, Roman, and Seth Rollins. And let's be honest with ourselves, that was easily the best match of WrestleMania last year. The build itself, the video package that they put for that triple threat match, the match itself, easily, that was what blew, that was what stole the show at WrestleMania last year. That match. But we never got a one-on-one match between the two guys. And one of the things that intrigued me the most about Roman Reigns versus CM Punk is not just the fact that they're going to be in the main event of WrestleMania, but the fact that, we got an amazing promo segment between the two men. Sometimes the build intrigues me more than the match itself. And this is one of those matches. The segment that we got last Monday night on Raw was off the chain. Easily one of Roman Reigns' best promos. Easily. And CM Punk, whenever you go toe-to-toe with CM Punk on the microphone, either A, he's going to smoke you on the mic, or two, you're probably going to have the best segment of your entire career. You don't believe me? Talk to MJF. Easily, some of MJF's best work was with CM Punk. That first promo segment that both men had with each other on that Thanksgiving episode of Dynamite will forever be ingrained in my head. One of the best segments in Dynamite history. But whenever you go toe-to-toe with CM Punk, it's going to be, you're in for a wild one. But in terms of the segment itself, here's some notes that I got. First off, Roman Reigns, of course, he talked about his history in Philadelphia. And then CM Punk came out. And Punk came out to the ring interrupting Roman Reigns. And instead of addressing Roman Reigns immediately, he went straight to talk about Finn Balor, and he stated this, and I quote, "Finn Balor, I heard what you said. You think you're a bad guy. Well, I know when I'm pushed, I'm the baddest guy, and you're going to find out very soon when I get my hands on you." Reigns clearly, of course, did not like Punk interrupting him, and he stated this, and I quote, or I should say CM Punk stated this, and I quote, or Roman, I should say, "You're coming out here interrupting my segment to talk about Finn Balor." And then CM Punk called Reigns a visitor on his show, and he called himself the champ who calls the shots, considering, of course, he is the world heavyweight champion. And he stated this, and I quote, "I'm pretty sure that your mind is already made up, and I know who you're picking. So go ahead, take the easy way out, and pick Drew McIntyre." CM Punk continued on talking about how Drew McIntyre is the easy way out. A bunch of shots geared towards Drew McIntyre. Actually, Drew McIntyre was actually able to respond on SmackDown, which was hilarious to see. Drew McIntyre, again, is freaking amazing. But in terms of this segment later on, one of the key points, or one of the key quotes, in my opinion, from this segment was what Roman Reigns told CM Punk. And this right here kind of solidified what was going to be, or what is going to be, the main event of WrestleMania. Roman Reigns stated this, and I quote, "I could pick you because you are the biggest star available. I could. Yeah, I could pick you because you're on Netflix and you are on the best show. I could. But no, I'm not picking you because of those things. I'm picking you because I hate you. I've always hated you." So that was what really, that was really kind of kind of what you expected. And one of the things that I liked about this segment, especially when Roman Reigns stated that he hated CM Punk, was that if you really think about it, all of the Shield members, so that being Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Jon Moxley, they all equally hate CM Punk, which is hilarious if you really think about it. They all equally hate CM Punk. Seth Rollins, of course, being the biggest out of the bunch that just hates CM Punk's guts. Don't believe me? Look at his reaction when Punk came out at Survivor Series a couple of years ago. It was hilarious. But everybody, every member of the Shield hates CM Punk, but in a different way, which is hilarious to think. But it is what it is. But in terms of this segment, I really enjoyed this segment for what it was. It was a fantastic segment, and everything about this was just perfect. And I do not know what Roman Reigns' availability is, and that's really one of the things that is concerning me, because we all know Roman Reigns has that limited schedule. And look, say what you want about Roman Reigns and his schedule. He deserves that schedule. I don't care what anybody says, because he's put WWE on his back for years. He deserves the schedule that he has, but sometimes with the schedule that you have, it can hurt your chances of having a good build for a main event at a show like a WrestleMania. The biggest example of this was John Cena last year. The build for John Cena versus Cody Rhodes was really not the best. Look, the segments that we got were great, but the problem was the fact that John Cena was not around. He was not around for the majority of that build. I don't want the same problem to happen with Roman Reigns versus CM Punk. I really don't want that to happen, but we're going to have to wait and see. This is just the first segment that both men are going to have with one another. I assume we're going to get more segments between both CM Punk and Roman Reigns. We're going to have to wait and see. I assume we're going to get that. But from right off the bat, this segment was easily the best thing on Raw and easily the best thing in all of wrestling this week, in my opinion. That's just me, though. But yeah, that's going to be the main event. Roman Reigns versus CM Punk at WrestleMania 42. All right, in our next topic, we're going to be talking about AJ Styles. Of course, AJ Styles lost to Gunther at the Royal Rumble, and from what it looks like, his career is over. He is going to be retiring from WWE. I'm still relatively, in that middle category, and I'm kind of leaning towards AJ Styles is still going to be wrestling in 2026. Look, AJ Styles at the end of the day is going to retire in 2026. I just don't think that the match that he had with Gunther is going to be his last match, but he was on the Stephanie McMahon podcast, and he basically, talked about his status for his retirement briefly, and he stated, never say never for a return to the ring. Now, take that as you will, but in terms of AJ Styles and his status, according to WrestleVotes, according to those spoken to, the belief is that AJ Styles is not done wrestling in some capacity. So take that as you will, but he did go on Stephanie McMahon's podcast and he did state, never say never. Look, there is a reason why AJ Styles, I believe, there's a reason why AJ Styles trademarked his name and his P1 logo. Number one, AJ Styles owns all of those things. He owns the name AJ Styles. This is not a case where WWE, creates the name for you or changes your name when you become super popular outside of the WWE and then you end up signing with WWE and then, they change your name. This is not the case. AJ Styles was really popular way before he came into WWE, of course, with his 11-year run in TNA and, of course, his run in Japan and Ring of Honor as well as a part of the Bullet Club. But, AJ Styles did come in as AJ Styles, so, he's doing that for legal reasons, obviously. But in terms of AJ Styles not being done, I actually think he's going to have his own retirement tour. I genuinely believe that. And the reason why I say that is because of the fact that, the possibilities at the end of the day are just endless. The possibilities, let's be honest with ourselves, the possibility for AJ Styles to go into AEW and wrestle guys like Will Ospreay, like Kenny Omega, like an MJF of all people. I mean, the possibilities are freaking endless. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like AJ Styles, and I stated this last week, AJ Styles has the right to do what he wants to do with his career. If he wants to call it a career, let him call it a career. I'm just saying the fan in me really wants to see those matches. I mean, come on. Imagine seeing Will Ospreay versus AJ Styles at Wembley Stadium at All In. I mean, people forget, but All In is going to be happening at Wembley Stadium. And AEW needs to fill those tickets for All In at Wembley. Every time when they would go to Wembley, the attendance diminishes. They had 80,000 people that first year at Wembley. Then the next year they had like 50-something thousand people. I mean, AEW really needs something big to really sell, the audience All In, especially if they want to sell all those tickets. If they want to sell 80,000 seats, which I doubt they will, but if they want to sell 80,000 seats for Wembley, man, put AJ Styles in that card, man. AJ Styles versus Will Ospreay. Imagine that match. Or AJ Styles versus Kenny Omega at Wembley Stadium. I mean, again, the possibilities are endless. A return to TNA, I feel like, is inevitable. He's only going to have a brief stint in TNA. I don't think, TNA is going to sign him to a long-term contract. But again, AJ Styles versus Mike Santana. AJ Styles versus Frankie Kazarian. AJ Styles, for lack of a better term, AJ Styles versus freaking Eric Young. I mean, come on. I mean, I would love to see a brief stint, a brief run with AJ Styles in TNA. I don't think he's going to retire in TNA. But like if there's a place for AJ Styles to really call it a career, it's AEW because of the amount of talent that's there. But not only that, and if you look at the Kenny Omega front, Kenny Omega versus AJ Styles is a very intriguing match because of the fact that, number one, and this is a big question, who was the one, who were the people that kicked AJ Styles out of the Bullet Club? It was Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. I mean, there is a story to be told. And I would love for AEW to really capitalize on that if they are going to bring AJ Styles in some capacity. But if they were to bring AJ Styles in some capacity and he ends up feuding with somebody like Kenny Omega, I mean, it'd be great to see. But again, it's something that we all need to really take into consideration. AJ Styles very well may be done, but I'm still one of those people that genuinely believes that he is not done yet. He is going to be retiring in 2026. I just don't think he's going to call it a career with the match that he had with Gunther. And look, it was not a bad match. It was a really good match in my opinion. I thoroughly enjoyed the match for what it was. It was a really, really good match. It was depressing seeing AJ Styles lose. It was. It was really depressing to see AJ Styles lose. It was. But at the end of the day, I still think AJ Styles has a lot left to give to the business. And look, once AJ Styles calls it a career, he flat out stated he wants to work with WWE in some capacity because he calls WWE home. So I wouldn't be surprised if he had a brief run in TNA and then he had a brief run in AEW and then ended up going back to WWE to work as a producer or work as a coach. Again, the possibilities are endless for AJ Styles. So I wouldn't bet against AJ Styles going elsewhere to work and really, spending the last full-time year of his career having the matches that he wants to have. But again, I'm not AJ Styles. AJ Styles may think differently. And look, if he wants to call it a career, respect to AJ Styles. If he wants to call it a career, he's able to call it a career. But in my opinion, I don't think AJ Styles is done. I think we're going to be seeing all those matches that we want to see in AEW. Really, that's the main place I want to see AJ Styles. Yeah, we've seen AJ Styles in TNA. I do think he's going to be wrestling in TNA, but really the main attraction for AJ Styles to me is AEW because he has a lot of friends there and there's a lot of possibilities. Not only that, you got guys like Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay constantly pointing out teasers and really not calling out AJ Styles, but really pushing the teases in terms of AJ Styles coming into AEW. So I really wouldn't go against the idea of AJ Styles coming into AEW. But yeah, that's the brief update on AJ Styles. All right, in our next topic, we are going to be talking about the ratings. Yes, the ratings we're going to be talking about. AEW Dynamite draws the best ratings in months. Now, why are we talking about the ratings? Now, normally I don't talk about ratings, but this is very interesting because Dynamite has been in the 400,000 category for the past couple of months. And a large portion of that has to do with the fact that the Nielsen system has changed and it really affected all of wrestling. Like SmackDown's now kind of doing around the 900,000 range. TNA in their first few weeks on AMC were doing around the 120,000 range, and now they're doing in the 200,000 range. AEW Dynamite actually saw a significant boost. Collision even saw a significant boost. But I'm reading this from F4WOnline.com. Wednesday night's AEW Dynamite episode averaged around 654,000 viewers on TBS, up slightly from 653,000 viewers the show did last week. This marks the largest audience for Dynamite since Grand Slam Mexico on September 17th last year. In the 18 to 49 demo, Dynamite drew a .15 rating that's up 66.7% from the prior week and ties the best rating that Dynamite has done in that category since August 20th. The show finished tied for 6 on the cable charts for the night, despite going head-to-head with an NBA game on ESPN that topped the chart with a .48 rating in the 18 to 49 demo and a 1.751 million viewership overall. Beginning on January 26th, Nielsen once again revised the way it calculates viewership with the Big Data Plus panel rating system. This change has resulted in a noticeable increase for wrestling programs. As compared to the same week in 2025, Dynamite's overall viewership was up 8.1%, while the 18 to 49 rating was down 11.8%. Listed below are the last 10 available weeks in viewership totals and the 18 to 49 demo ratings for Dynamite, along with the 9-week average in both categories. This week's show was up 27.2% in viewers and 87.5% in 18 to 49 as compared to the recent averages. And they showed all the list of the viewership. So, for example, on the November 26th episode of Dynamite, they drew roughly around 512,000 viewers. December 3rd, 496. December 10th, 516. Then, of course, December 17th, 511. December 31st, 398. January 7th, 516. January 14th, 526. January 21st, 498. And then immediately, 7 days later, on the next episode, they immediately bumped to 653. And this week, 654. So on a 10-week average, they basically have an average of around 514,000 viewers. But a large portion of that had to do with the new system that was being in place. Now, it sparked the conversation because if you look at Collision actually jumped like crazy because Collision was doing around the 200,000 range, and on bad weeks, they do around 100-something thousand on a Saturday night, and that is on TNT. Now, if you compare that to TNA with their debut show on AMC did roughly around like 100 and something thousand, I think it was like 175,000. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Impact got a bump, and that bump was around 201,000 viewers. And Collision this past week did roughly around 492,000 viewers, almost 500,000 viewers. Collision did on January 31st, which is absolutely insane because let's be honest with ourselves, Collision is a show nobody watches. I'm not the biggest Collision watcher. Some people are even pointing to Tommaso Ciampa being a draw. But the only reason as to why all of these ratings are going up, and I hate to break it to you guys, but the only reason as to why these ratings are up is because Nielsen changed their rating system once again. And that begs the question, in terms of Nielsen, what are we to believe in terms of these numbers? Like, what are we to believe? Because they keep changing the system. And to me, with Nielsen changing the system further and further, it kind of begs the question, are these numbers even reliable at the end of the day? Like, do these numbers even matter? Are these numbers, real numbers? Because a lot of people tend to criticize Nielsen for their rating system, but it is what it is. But Nielsen definitely changed that system. Now, Nielsen isn't offering a full explanation of the changes. It's their own proprietary blend of herbs and spices after all, but they've shared enough that Variety could offer an explanation. And I'm reading this from Cage Side Seats. Nielsen has informed its clients that it will start incorporating results from a study of consumer behavior in television and digital media done by Advertising Research Foundation, an organization that presses for unified standards of research in advertising and marketing. Its board of directors includes executives from Bank of America, Comscore, and Coca-Cola. The new data is expected to be added to Nielsen's ratings methodology this week, according to two people familiar with the matter, and it could result in a one-time expansion of the number of households or universe watching cable and broadcast television, and a potential diminution, I believe that's how you pronounce the word, my apologies, of the overall audience watching streaming. Now, continuing on, WrestleNomics actually posted a statement, and Brandon Thurston stated this, and I quote, This has coincided with a multi-month highs for all wrestling programs we track that are on traditional television. That includes what we know of SmackDown's viewership in the 18 to 49 demo, which would be the highest that demo has been since November 21st of 2025. Dynamite last week had its highest total viewership, that being 653,000 since September 17th. And of course, NXT's total viewership 674, which was the highest since October 14th. Impact's, third week, kind of the same, was notably equal to its debut number. More time and data needs to gather, but so far the early data suggests that the methodology change is at least partly offsetting the negative differences programming, including Pro Wrestling, have experienced since the Big Data Plus panel became primary in late September, which we reported in detail, that being WrestleNomics a few months ago. Sorry if I messed up on that. I mean, these people write like crazy. But in terms of the Nielsen system changing, it's weird. I mean, I can remember vividly it was like a big discourse on social media about the Nielsen ratings changing and how wrestling is not good. Like, what were the actual numbers and all that stuff. Nielsen clearly had a part in this new system, and the reason why the ratings being up for all wrestling shows that include SmackDown, Dynamite, Collision, Impact, the reason why all these shows are going up is because of the fact that Nielsen is changing their system once again. And I mean, let's be honest, for years, everybody has been kind of criticizing Nielsen for the way that they have been, for the way that they have been, how do I put it into words? For the way that they have been producing numbers, and a lot of people just don't believe the numbers that they put out. It is what it is. But let's be honest, a large reason as to why all these numbers are up is because of the fact that Nielsen changed its system. And look, it's impacted wrestling in a much better way. So it's good for all parties involved at the end of the day. So I think we can just kill that discourse. All right. In our next topic, let's talk about Grand Slam Australia. Yes, AEW actually has a special. It's not a pay-per-view. It's a special show, and they're going to be in Australia once again with Grand Slam Australia. And I'm going to be honest, the card is actually looking stacked. Now, in terms of ticket sales, I am not sure. I'm not sure how much are they selling in tickets. I'm not sure how much they're drawing, and I should have looked this up before I started this show. But apparently, the show, correct me if I'm wrong, is not really selling well. That's just me. I may be totally wrong, and if I'm wrong, please in the comments down below say that I'm wrong. I don't want to assume anything, but I should have done that research before. That's my fault. But let's do a quick rundown of the card. Of course, we have the AEW World Championship on the line, as MJF will be defending his world title against Brody King, who, by the way, squashed. Yes, I'm going to use that term very loosely. Not very loosely, but I'm going to use that term a lot. Squashed MJF this past Wednesday on Dynamite. And I'm going to be honest, a lot of people were upset about that. It was like, oh my God, it's bad booking. But it's not like he, in a way, kind of lost clean, because Hangman Page, in a way, kind of distracted MJF in terms of, Brody King squashing MJF. But hey, man, Brody King getting the win over the AEW World Champion immediately granted him a title shot in that Eliminator match. I'm not a fan of Eliminator matches, but it is what it is. But he has a world title match now against MJF. Is he going to win the world championship? Hell no. MJF is going to hold on to that title for a long amount of time. But yeah, man, we got that world title match happening at Grand Slam Australia. We got the mixed tornado tag team match, and there's a big stipulation in this match. The loser of this match has to have their head shaved. That being the person who gets pinned has to get their head shaved. So it's going to be Tony Storm and Orange Cassidy taking on Wheeler Yuta and Marina Shafir of the Death Riders. Now, let's be honest, I don't think Tony Storm is going to get her head shaved. I don't think Orange Cassidy is going to get his head shaved. And hell, and look, I'm a big fan of Marina Shafir. A couple of years ago, I used to crap on Marina Shafir. Nowadays, ever since, her being a part of the Death Riders, and look, I'm going to say this about the Death Riders. The Death Riders, and I don't care what anybody says, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with the Death Riders, but the Death Riders have become one of my favorite stables in AEW. Sue me. I don't care what anybody says. I'm a big fan of the Death Riders. Marina Shafir has raised her stock tremendously, since being a part of the Death Riders. She has raised her stock tremendously, and I think she's going to be a great singles act on AEW when the time comes. But I'm going to be honest. Marina Shafir is not going to get her head shaved. The only person that I see getting their head shaved is Wheeler Yuta. What kind of hairstyle you have? And I have long hair, but what kind of hairstyle does Wheeler Yuta have? I mean, it's a very weird hairstyle, and I wouldn't recommend it upon anybody. But Wheeler Yuta is going to go bald in Australia. So my prediction, I do believe Orange Cassidy is going to pin Wheeler Yuta, and Wheeler Yuta is going to get his head shaved. All right, we got a match that has major implications. We got Andrade El Idolo, who, by the way, beat Kenny Omega this past Wednesday on Dynamite. He beat Kenny Omega. Will take on Hangman Adam Page, and the stipulation is the winner will receive an AEW World Championship match at Revolution. Now, everybody thought Kenny Omega was going to be going after MJF at Revolution. That was like the rumored match that everybody was speculating, MJF versus Kenny Omega at Revolution. But from what it looks like, that is not going to be the case. And a large portion of that is because of the fact that most likely Kenny Omega is not going to be available because I believe he has to go promote a video game. That's really the main reason why. But who do I think is going to be winning this match? I mean, I don't know, man. On one hand, I would love to see an MJF versus Andrade match. If there's one thing that AEW is doing right, it's the way that they've been booking Andrade ever since they brought him into the company. Now, granted, they kind of ran themselves into some legal lingo with WWE when they brought him in at first, but when they finally were able to bring him in, AEW has been booking Andrade tremendously well. Like, Andrade is really one of the highlights now when I watch AEW every week. And the fact that he's kind of thrusted in this world title picture with MJF, and this is another thing. The world title picture in AEW right now is 10 times more interesting than the world title picture in WWE. And that goes for both world titles in WWE. I'm genuinely more interested in the world title picture in AEW than I am for WWE, and that's great to see. But we got Hangman Page versus Andrade for the AEW, or the winner will receive a world title match at Revolution. And I actually believe Hangman Page is going to get the win. I don't think Andrade is going to get the win. I may be totally wrong, but I think Andrade is going to look really good in this match. We got the AEW Women's World Tag Team titles on the line as the Babes of Wrath, Will Nightingale and Harley Cameron, will take on Megabad. Yes, Megabad, that tag team, Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne. The babyfaces are going to get the win. Next, no disrespect, no shade. We got Jon Moxley versus Konosuke Takeshita for the Continental title. I see Jon Moxley retaining, but Takeshita's definitely going to give Moxley a run for his money because Takeshita is one of the best in-ring wrestlers, not only in AEW, but one of the best in-ring wrestlers in the world. So yeah, that was AEW Grand Slam Australia. That show is going to be taking place on Saturday, September 14th, and that's going to be taking place in Australia. And that's not going to be a premium live event or a pay-per-view. That's going to be a special Collision show. Yes, it's going to be a Collision show. It's not going to be your normal AEW pay-per-view. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Grand Slam Australia. And finally, this show is actually going to run a little shorter than expected, considering it's the Super Bowl. We got Bad Bunny, the status of Bad Bunny. Ironically, we got the Super Bowl and Bad Bunny. We got the Super Bowl and we're talking about Bad Bunny, but we got the latest on Bad Bunny's WWE return. And he's set to headline tonight's Super Bowl. I'm reading this from the Takedown on Sports Illustrated. Ahead of his NFL Super Bowl halftime show this weekend, reports are circulating that Bad Bunny is on his way back to WWE. The multi-time Grammy winner will be front and center at this weekend's NFL Super Bowl halftime event. And despite being away from professional wrestling for a few years, it appears Bad Bunny is ready to make a return to the squared circle. Earlier this week, Arizona Senator Ruben Galeo took to social media asking AEW president Tony Khan to bring Bad Bunny into the company, tweeting out, "At Tony Khan, it's time for AEW to solidify a huge fan base. San Benito," that being Bad Bunny, "loves wrestling and needs him to make some appearances. Just no stretcher match, please," Ruben Gallego said in a post. Now, the reason why I believe this U.S. senator tweeted at Tony Khan was because of the fact that, of course, we all know Bad Bunny did state, though, he talked about ICE at the Grammys, and that sparked a lot of conversation. And, of course, this past Wednesday on Dynamite, we got a bunch of F-ICE chants ahead of the MJF and Brody King match, which definitely sparked a lot of conversation and gave AEW a lot of publicity. Say what you want about that. I'm not going to go political on here. It's great that AEW is getting all that publicity because they definitely need it. But the reason why this U.S. senator is going at AEW is because of that. That's the reason why. But little did Gallego know that Bad Bunny might be returning to professional wrestling very soon, but not for All Elite Wrestling. Look, newsflash, he's not going to AEW. I do believe he watches AEW. I genuinely believe that Bad Bunny does watch AEW. I also believe he did go to that CMLL show wearing a mask, which is hilarious to see. But according to Brian Alvarez of the Wrestling Observer, he stated this on Wrestling Observer Live, that Bad Bunny is returning to WWE, and that return will take place sooner rather than later. As for when Bad Bunny could be making his WWE return, it's worth pointing out that his current world tour takes a break from March 2nd to the end of May. This would leave him plenty of time to be involved and compete at this year's WrestleMania 42 event in Las Vegas. What do I think about this? I think it's inevitable at this point. WWE is the type of promotion that loves to capitalize on anything going on in mainstream media. And Bad Bunny was definitely the talk of the town in the Grammys when he won his Grammy Award, but also with his comments at the Grammys. WWE would love to capitalize on that. And of course, his Super Bowl performance is going to be one for the ages. I'm definitely excited to see that. He's also getting a lot of hatred by a lot of people, saying that, oh, he shouldn't perform at the Super Bowl. And I'm like, dude, Bad Bunny is a huge, huge, huge star. What are you talking about? Don't listen to those people. But Bad Bunny, man, he's definitely going to be making a statement. Tonight's his night. Let's be honest with ourselves. Tonight is his night at the Super Bowl, and he's going to be making a huge impact. And of course, WWE wants to capitalize on that. And look, I'm going to be honest. If there's any celebrity that I have enjoyed watching, whenever they would make an appearance in the ring, and it's not Logan Paul, it's not Shaquille O'Neal, it's Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny, man, every time when he is in the ring, the guy gives it 110% all the time. You don't believe me? Watch his match against Damian Priest in Puerto Rico. Watch that match. It's absolutely insane. And he had one of the greatest entrances I've ever seen on a WWE show. And I'm not shilling you when I say that. I genuinely believe that. Yeah. Yeah. He had one of the best entrances for any wrestler. Not only that, he had a fantastic showing against Damian Priest. His showing at the Royal Rumble as well. Like, oh my God. Bad Bunny, is fantastic. And he's a wrestling fan as well. He's not one of those, celebrities that come in just for a payday and, just mispronounce all the wrestlers or flat out mispronounce the show, like the Summerfest. Remember that back in 2009 during the guest host era? We will get you at the Summerfest. And then John Cena immediately corrected him. It was hilarious. He meant SummerSlam. But whatever. Bad Bunny, it's inevitable that he's going to be coming back to WWE. Is it going to be a part of WrestleMania? We're going to have to wait and see. But I'm definitely excited to see where this goes. And Bad Bunny is definitely the talk of the town. But yeah, this was the WrestleHavoc Podcast, a relatively short show today, of course, primarily because of the fact that it's Super Bowl Sunday. But I wanted to give you guys a show to talk about a couple things that went down in professional wrestling, of course. So yeah, this has been the WrestleHavoc Podcast on this Super Bowl Sunday, February 8th, 2026. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this edition of the podcast. Thank you guys so much for not only watching on the WrestleHavoc Podcast channel, but also on all WNN platforms, whether that is the Facebook page or the YouTube channel as well. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications. Be on the lookout for more content as well right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast channel. And as always, it is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys all next week. Peace.